If you didn't trust them, they would not be able to steal from you.
Welcome to the Compliant AF podcast, where healthcare compliance isn't just a checklist, it's a competitive advantage.
I'm Amy Wood, CEO of Copperpenny Consulting, a cybersecurity and HIPAA compliance geek who thinks encryption is awesome.
And I'm Kara Kelly, CEO of Clinical HR, fractional HR business partner and HR nerd who is weirdly passionate about employment policy.
If you're a dental or healthcare leader who's tired of check-the-box compliance and wants to actually understand what the rules are and how to build a practice that doesn't live in fear of audits or lawsuits,
you are in the right place. We are digging into the stuff that keeps practice leaders up at night.
We'll break down the boring, call out the BS, and share real strategies with a little snark and a whole lot of caffeine.
This isn't legal advice. We are not your lawyers.
We are two consultants who have seen way too many practices get in trouble because no one explained the rules in a way that actually made sense or made them care.
But since this is a compliance podcast, the content in this podcast or any associated clips is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, financial, medical, tax, or regulatory advice. We are not attorneys. Clinical HR LLC and Copperpenny Consulting LLC are not legal firms, and listening to this podcast does not create a client relationship. Always consult a qualified professional advisor for guidance specific to your situation.
So buckle up, because boring compliance just got compliant AF.
We are here with Susan Gunn, CFE, fraud expert, and oh my goodness, one of the go-to people that you need to know in dentistry, or honestly, if you are a healthcare professional who owns a practice, period, regardless of the size, regardless of what healthcare profession you're in, this is the woman that you want to know. Susan, welcome.
Thank you. It's always fun to talk to you too.
Yeah, it is. And we've had like 30 minutes of conversation before we even started.
Yes, we have already.
So let's jump right back into what we were talking about. You just shared that you have seen an uptick this year, 2025, in embezzlement. Tell us about that.
Well, 2020, when COVID hit, all of a sudden, all the practice owners had time to focus on their financial statements. I was so slammed busy. I actually started a podcast then too, but people were calling going, I don't understand this. I need to rearrange this, the organization so that I can understand what are all these words? What do they mean? Because they were mostly CPA designed charts of accounts. And so it was great. They were paying attention and asking questions and honing down on the nitty gritty. I had some that found expenses that they had been charged for over a year and a half that they weren't doing anymore. And I said, you guys need to keep this trend up because you're going to get busy again and not pay attention.
And how long did that take?
About 2 years, a year and a half. So about 2022, I could tell they weren't paying attention anymore. Last year, it hit. And I said, back then, I said there will be an uptick in embezzlements because they're going to go back to doing clinical completely and not paying attention to the nitty gritty of owning a business. And sure enough, last year, I have been a little busy. I would rather, from my perspective, help a practice organize, keep their information, give them some things to do, create a back-to-back accountability between both of the software, help them figure out the systems and procedures they need in their office. That's how I started my business 29 years ago. And I became a certified fraud examiner because one of my clients got embezzled from it. It pissed me off. And so it's like, and Kara, he was a good East Texas boy. Wore his cowboy boots to the practice, good looking guy. So if he's listening, hey there. But really good guy. And the gal took advantage of him. And that's what happens. That scenario is the same every time. The doctor owner is really nice, kind, and somebody takes advantage of them. And in whatever format, which I won't talk about those details, but in whatever that happens to happen.
But, and this is one of my favorite topics as well. I spent the first 7+ years of my career in dentistry working for a dental CPA firm where my former boss was a CFE, but we did not really conduct those investigations. We just kind of used that as background knowledge. And if we saw something that was completely outstanding, then we certainly would address that. We also helped some clients through this whenever it was discovered that they had been embezzled from various means. And so that was one of the things that I really also enjoyed, is helping people prevent fraud from occurring in their practice. I actually still utilize some of that whenever I'm doing things like employee handbooks. We have a cash management, for example, policy. Oh my goodness. I don't know if it's just the newer practice owners when they're coming in. I don't know if people have just gotten lazy. The crazy places people are keeping their cash and the indifference that they seem to have toward it has gotten worse, I feel. I don't know what percentage you would ballpark of what the embezzlement increase has been in the last year or so, but
I always love it when the doctor says, "Well, I don't really get that much cash." That's adorable. And so I follow it up with, "Not that you know of," because you don't know. Here's the deal is, and I say this when I speak all the time, uh, if they've ever worked retail, those summer jobs or whatever, or Christmas jobs, right? Me too. You know that when they get the cash drawer, they count the money that's in the cash drawer. And then at the end of the day, it's counted at the end of the day. They never do that in dentistry.
So I tell my clients every time we get to this section, my only retail job ever, I was a cash lead at a shoe store. I'm very surprised my paychecks did not come back as an invoice because shoes. As cash lead, I would get there, and I actually worked one of those rare unicorn schedules for retail, which was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And so Monday through Friday, when I would get there with the assistant manager, we'd go into the office where there was a camera and there were 4 tills in the safe, and I would count down every single till to make sure there was $100. Then I would take out my till, count it again to make sure there's $100, go do my shift, come back with my little ticket that showed what I should have had, recount it again, and put it back in the safe. And at the end of the day, the assistant manager or whoever was on duty, is probably general manager by that point, would come in and would count down every till to match every single one of those tickets, and then take out the deposit. They would get counted again to make sure there's $100 left in it, and they all got put back in the safe, and we did it again the next day. Every cashier that came in for their shift counted theirs before and after.
That's
so
right.
Every till was counted 4 times at a minimum every day in front of a camera in a back office. That never happens in dentistry.
No, and it should, at least the beginning and the end of the day. And so, I mean, there's so many things that I recommend as far as processes to go through with that, to kind of CYA. And not only even just CYA, when you have structure, we know this, right? And I tell them, I said, if you have kids, you know that you need some kind of structure. Well, it's the same in your practice. If you can build in the accountability, it doesn't mean that you're micromanaging at all. It means your practice has accountability.
It means you're taking care of your money, but they say that it's like, well, it's petty cash. It's only $100. I'm like, yeah, until somebody makes that payment.
Oh, yeah. Well, my $1.1 million case started with petty cash, and then advanced to padding the payroll and other means. But yeah, so I mean, it could start at petty cash. They start where it's easy.
Well,
yeah, petty cash is easy, quite frankly, and then they'll take it and see if anybody notices.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is why I tell them if they're going to count down and do an audit of their cash, that they should do it at random times, not every Wednesday at 4 p.m. because the team starts to notice that. So they'll take something out on Thursday and put it back by Tuesday, hopefully, fingers crossed.
I've had them write IOU notes and stick them in there to see if anybody asked, and they would do it on a Friday, and on Tuesday they'd take out the note.
Sometimes it's the doctor that does it too, pocketing the cash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when I speak, because when I speak, it's typically to the doctors and spouses only, especially for the embezzlement classes, right? And so when I tell them, petty cash is not your personal ATM. For the cash payments, if they're doing a remote scan, they can take out their personal checkbook and write a check to the practice for the amount of the cash and put it in the memo exchanged for cash. And then that's scanned with that daily deposit. So all the money goes to the bank. There's an accountability for it. Not only that, when they do that, everyone in the office sees that and sees that they're not just pocketing the cash.
Be the leader. Yeah. Then the question is, where do they put it? Because I will still see some that say the administrative team members take the cash payment and they just put it in the cash box in the front drawer, and it's all lumped together. And if there was multiple cash payments and something's missing, we don't know which payment it was.
Shoot, I had one at the end of the day has cash. And so we developed a system for him that he does a deposit. They do a deposit slip at the front. They say how much the cash is, put it on the deposit slip. They put all the checks and everything together with that cash for the deposit slip. They fold up the deposit report for that day, put it with that, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, put their initials on the outside, put the date of the collections on the front side. And he got a one of those locking mailboxes that you can hang in the office. And so it's just got a slot. So they just open it up, stick it in the slot. So at the end of the week, when he wants to go to the bank, he has all of that with him. Now he still needs to do, he or she, the dentist, still needs to run, or somebody like me that outside, not that's inside the practice, create reports for that month to oversee that what that they said actually went to the bank. And so that's an overseeing. I do that for a lot of my clients, either a monthly or quarterly service, just to remote in, check everything in the practice software, make sure it aligns, and they're good to go. Not only that, then the team members know somebody's remoting in and checking things. So it is a little bit on guard thing.
So what are the areas that they should be checking? Like you said, they were paying attention really, really well in 2020, 2022, and they've kind of stopped. And now I could first ask the question, is this newer practice owners that you're seeing that aren't doing it, that weren't aware of that? Or is this practice owners that were doing it and have kind of slid back into terrible habits?
I've had a mix.
Yeah.
It hasn't been any specific age group. It's been a mix. I just had an embezzlement with a younger dentist. And I have had a 1.25 this year million. That has taken the highest, and it would have been a whole lot more than that if we could have accessed longer period of time records. But yeah. And that was a multiple doctor practice of various ages. So, it's just, I don't think it's an age group. I think it is just their head down, focusing on the clinical. They were in rebuild mode after 2020. Now they're back to normal again, and they're just trying to keep it going. We hit that whole thing of having a hard time finding team members to work.
Well, they're still doing that.
Yeah, but it seems to be a little bit better. Yeah, maybe I'm misinformed on that, but that seems to be the least of the ones that I get across, and that they're still trying to figure out the financial statements and what does this look like? And
they're all just running around screaming, "What do we do? What do we do?" And meanwhile, they're just chickens with their heads cut off.
yeah,
Take all the metaphors and smash them together, and that's kind of what's happening right now.
yeah,
And
some of the CPAs,
crazy.
your CPA can make or break the situation. Let me be completely honest. They can either support you in your business, or they can just do your taxes. And dental CPAs do that first part and the taxes. I actually had a client tell me this year, because I told her to give, and I tell everybody, by the way, to give the CPA the year report of all the collections for the whole year, January 1st, December 31st. Give them the collections report from the practice software. When you send your information to them for your taxes, send that as well. And I had a client tell me, well, I told my CPA that I was going to send them that report, and they said, no, don't worry about it. I just take what goes to the bank.
Yikes. I mean, I know that there's some CPAs that want to CYA by not saying that they're going to catch fraud, or that they even look for it, because then if it is found at some point, some embezzlement's found at some point, then they are liable in some sense.
No, they're not.
Because
They're not liable.
But that's why they don't want to take that information. They'll say very clearly, we don't look for that. We only look at what goes through the bank. You know,
Well,
we don't want
that's
to
a
touch.
pretty lame answer
I don't
on
disagree.
their part. I mean, I was going to say something else, but that's a pretty lame answer on
We're
their part.
compliant AF. You are welcome to share whatever you like. I have bleeping
Oh man,
capability.
that it is. If they saw a discrepancy, I actually had one time that called and said, my CPA found a $16,000 discrepancy. And so he thinks somebody's embezzling and he told me to give you a call. Okay. Well, let's look. If they don't have any specific evidence, Sally stole $150 out of the deposit kind of thing, then I will do what's called an Ask the Expert time. And it's a 2-hour time. And I love that because even if they didn't suspect anything, I get to show them the reports they need to review. Pull this report. And when you look at this report, this is what this means. Look, at this time they did this and they changed that and they changed this to this. And then you go here and you look here and their reports, I've actually sat with them and they go, I never knew this report was here. I never knew I could run this report. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to be doing this once a month. Because I tell them when I first start, get a legal pad. You're going to be taking notes. And so when we got into his and we're looking for this 16,000, he was a heavy care credit taker. Yeah, and you know where I'm going. So 14,000 of it was the care credit fees. And so it was like, nope, I found it. It's right here. Yep. He didn't account for the care credit fees. Oh.
Because they are taken out whenever the money comes in and you have to actually put them back in to reclassify them in the accounting.
Yeah. Yeah. I said, you do it this way. Even if they do a month adjustment from the reports, they could do it this way and just put it in there that this was the income and then it got reduced for the fees. And I said, now you've got that back to back. And he was like, wow, you really found that quickly. Well,
It's because you're not new at this.
29 years.
Yeah. You have a wealth of knowledge and experience and you've got the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
So what's the craziest one that you've run into? Like the most
obviously not this
absurd
year.
where you're like, do you think it was this year?
I was going to say that's obviously not this year. That's not like something ongoing in litigation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Share.
Because, I have to work a lot with the DAs and that doesn't stand for, what it stands for, district attorney. Well, this DA came up twice trying to argue that it was the dentist that took the money, not the front office manager. And I said, no, look here. And I had to, a lot of times I have to educate them and show them this here. Look at this report. Let me explain what you're seeing in this report. And thankfully, he had a software that is really good about explaining. Dentrix is amazing. And that's what they had. And it's very evidentiary in court. And so, I went through and explained it with her. Well, she still didn't believe me. I mean, seriously, how many trips do you need to take up here? And who are you coming to see in the Dallas-Fort Worth area anyway? She was interviewing the doctor, and someone came from downstairs in the courthouse and asked her a question. And when she came up, she goes, hey, Dr. So-and-so. And he goes, hi, how are you doing? Well, ends up she was a patient to the doctor, right? And she said, what are you doing up here? And he goes, well, and looks at her. And so she explains, the DA explained to the clerical person that came up. And she goes, funny thing happened to me when I was there, and proceeds to tell a story about how the gal told her that the credit card machine was broke and that she needed to go down and get money from the ATM so she could pay cash. I mean, it was this big thing. And so the doctor called me after the meeting, said, I don't think she's going to doubt you anymore. about time. I mean, seriously, how much more evidence do you need? And because the gal was also, she was believing the office manager.
Right. They don't want to believe it.
Oh,
They feel like they've built these bonds with these
I would
people. And
never steal from this doctor. I would never. They're all drama queens, but,
and it's always the person you least expect.
Oh, always. Let's be honest. If you didn't trust them, they would not be able to steal from you. And it's always
Oh.
somebody they trust.
Now, I find it interesting. So when I was doing IT, we had one of our largest clients at the time, which wasn't that big in today's standards, but 20 years ago, they were really big for us. And their office manager had a little bit of an alcohol problem. We came to find out. And
Had a couple of those too.
well, she was found passed out in the office and from drinking at the office while she was working, and she had been embezzling a lot of money. I don't know all the particulars, but I do know it was definitely multiple six figures. And I remember looking at my husband at the time. I was like, really? Her? Really?
Mm.
Never would have known. Completely functional in front of everyone else. And since then, roughly 30% of the clients that I've worked with over the years have had some kind of incident or embezzlement, or I've even referred some people to you to deal with. And some of them have just decided, I'm just going to sweep this under the rug. And at that point, I'm like, I don't think I can work with you either. If you're not going to do this, you're not going to be compliant in other ways. And that's just not what we do.
My 1.1 million worked at a practice before she went to the dentist she stole from. And he said he just fired her because he thought it was easier to get rid of her than it was to prosecute. And I went,
That is another stat that I find interesting, of like the number of practices that don't prosecute, that don't call the police, that just let them go.
2018, I worked with the ADA and created a embezzlement survey. And they sent it out, and it had a low rate of return, which was pretty sad because I was really hoping. Everybody says these pie in the sky numbers, but they don't have any concrete evidence to support those numbers. Every single person that speaks on embezzlement pulls those numbers out of a hat. And so they don't really know. I mean, seriously, they don't have a clue. And so I was really hoping that this survey would give us some concrete evidence finally. The only thing it showed was if they had an embezzlement many times, they were embezzled 4 or more times after that. 4 or more times. Wow. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. 4 or more
That's
times.
insane.
How do you get embezzled from once and not change what you're doing? Then twice, and then 3 times, but then 4 or more? I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh.
Not everyone is smart, Susan. We've talked about this before. Not everyone is smart, and you can't fix stupid.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're stupid. It's just they've got other things on their plate, and they're like, cool, that's done. Let's move on to the next crisis. And they forget about it.
I actually had a dentist, well, I won't say where he's from, but it's pretty indicative. He was very mellow and low key. And he said, you're just not very merciful. And I went, no, you're right. I'm not very merciful. But let me tell you why I'm not merciful. A, they were the ones that did this to you. You did not do this. They chose to steal from your practice. So no, I'm not merciful. And B, if you don't prosecute, they go right down the road and they'll do, of the cases I've had in the last 30 years, 29 those years, of the cases I've had, probably 50 to 60% of them stole from a prior practice.
And in my experience, even the ones that do get prosecuted, still they're back out working for another practice within a month or two. Like,
background checks.
Yes.
Background checks. Full background checks.
No kidding.
See if they've sued a previous employer.
That's a whole other topic. And like real background checks, I'm just going to go look at my state's records and see if there's anything there, as if people don't live, work, and travel somewhere else outside of your state. But sure.
I had one embezzler that was convicted in 3 states.
Oh my God.
And they didn't catch it. He did a state background check, not a national. And I was like, yeah, I know, you need to do a national. So yeah, it's even for drug convictions. I had one, in fact, I was just telling somebody about this. I had one up in Oregon that was a drug ring. The hygienist, the front office manager, the front office manager's husband, adult son, and the other front office worker. 5 people.
Wow.
And it was a drug ring. And they did it. He was thinking they had embezzled a lot of money. It was only $1,800, but which is really small, but not small. But what I did find was the drug ring. I mean, I was kind of like, oh my gosh. It's the only time I've been, because I had to fly there. Good thing I was. And I met with the sheriff, came to my hotel room, and I had everything spread out on the bed. Here's this, here's this, here's this. And he just looked at me and he goes, wow. He gave me, I've got it somewhere on my desk. He gave me.
Did you have the little red string going from here to here to here, like the murder board?
Yeah. He gave me a battle coin, you guys. That was so cool.
That's amazing.
I mean, that still means a lot to me. Sometimes I'll pick that up and go, yep, this makes it worth it sometimes. But what I was going to go back into the survey real quick, as a result of that survey and having a really low number people turn out for that, and we worked so hard on that survey. The ADA gal and I spent a lot of hours. I didn't get any monetary at all from that, but really just wanted the details. And what I did get out of it was, if you own a practice for 30 years, if you stick your head in the sand, you will be embezzled. I mean,
I'm just shocked at how frequently it happens where people aren't prosecuted. I mean, just with the people I've worked with, it's a higher than comfortable percentage.
Well, and I tell my clients, I walk through them to the end. And so I walk through, I am in contact with this 1.25 with the prosecuting department. I am walking with them on that. I have written victim statements so that they can make sense with whatever it is. I've worked with attorney generals and prosecutors about getting my fees included in the retribution. So restitution.
I had something like that too. It was a little bit different. It wasn't quite embezzlement, but it was an act of aggression. And so there were 4 ladies working at the front. They were using a cloud practice management system, and apparently they shared passwords. One was terminated. 2 of her friends quit in solidarity. Yeah, and they all had the password of the 4th girl that stayed there. And sometime during that weekend, one of those 3 ladies went in and deleted random things. They deleted upcoming appointments. They deleted health histories, x-rays, claims, whatever. And it took quite a while to figure out who it was. But it actually took even longer to get the cloud practice management company to give up the IP address as to where that person lived. But they were able to finally get it, and they did get a conviction, and they were able to put even my fees in with the restitution. So that is karma. Don't be a bad person.
Right.
Yeah. I know everybody's cash strapped right now, but we don't do awful things because we're good people. Okay.
Well, and that to me is one of the reasons why this is such an important topic right now. It's not saying that people working for a dental practice are going to suddenly get so desperate that they're going to start looking for ways to embezzle from their boss. But that is kind of what happens whenever we go into a recession, when people's health insurances go, cost goes through the roof, whenever they feel like they're unable to put food on their table, feed their kids and buy them, new shoes.
Well, they better be paying attention this month. Well, with the cost going up and benefits being cut, some of your workers may be affected. and watch, because desperate times will incur desperate measures. Now, having said that, just let's be clear. I've never had an embezzlement case, and maybe others have, but I have never had an embezzlement case where they needed the money.
I have. And
Have
one of
you?
them was actually at that retail location. Despite the fact that all of this stuff was counted on camera, one of our other department leads had been cashiering that day and
Wow.
slipped $50 in her pocket on camera, and ended up, they dismissed her and called the police over $50 but she did it because she was desperate. Like, her and her spouse were arguing, and she was trying to live in a hotel with her kid and just needed the money. And so, yes, I have actually
Yeah.
seen that from
Yeah, I
desperation.
have not. I have had them drugged. I mean, they are on drugs or they're on gambling.
Gambling.
A couple of
Yeah.
gamblers, but
Most
four,
of them, they
four
just
or
want
five drug
to.
cases and 2 gamblers, and that's it out of all the other cases.
Sometimes they
So,
feel like they deserve it. They feel like, I didn't get a raise this year, or I didn't get a big enough Christmas bonus, so I'm just going to go ahead and bonus myself.
well, the 1.1 million was driving a Jaguar. Before
Oh,
she got caught.
come
And
on.
that was
Really?
yes, and that's one of the things I would teach whenever I
Yeah.
taught kind of my red flags courses, are like, do you have employees who are making the wages that you pay them, and the family situation that you're aware of, with far more expensive than they should accessories, electronics, vehicles, things, you
Yeah.
know? Where did
Yeah.
that come from? That's always a question. It's not to say that your team members don't deserve those things, but
Right.
your dental assistant at $22 an hour is driving a Jag. There's probably a question.
There is. There was lots of questions in that ones, and lots of, but nobody, I mean, kind of the last thing that you jump to is, maybe they're stealing from me. I mean, nobody ever wants to consider that, because you have to think that that other person might have the potential to steal from you. You see them day in and day out. I mean, oh my gosh, you're invited to each other's kids' birthday parties and graduations and weddings and funerals. You're a part of their daily, you sometimes see them more than you see your own spouse. And so you don't want to think that there's the possibility, oh my gosh, they might be stealing.
Well, and that's a different kind of stealing than, for example, time card fraud, where they're milking the clock. That would fall to me under the expected type of fraud. It's not that it's right. It's still not. It's still fraud. It's still theft, because if they're done with their work, they should not be sitting on the clock, bringing in payroll. But that's one that we see as a little more normal than actual outright theft. Like, I actually took my hand and put it in the cash box and pulled out those $100 bills and
Yeah.
stuck them in my pocket. That's a whole different
That's
level.
a whole different realm.
So,
So,
so back to kind of what the question I'd originally asked, like, what should they be looking for? What should doctors be looking for in their practice? And I know that there are some things that you can't share, or that you only want to share with doctors and their spouses, practice owners and their spouses. And so anybody listening to this should go find one of Susan's courses and go and register for that if you really want the in detail of like how your employees can steal from you, because she does a brilliant job with that, but she only does it for doctors and their spouses. So I understand that there's a limit to what you can share, but in general, what are some things that they should be looking at? We talked about cash, we've talked about, credit cards.
they need to learn their reports.
Yes.
Most software, not all of the practice software, but most practice software has good financial reports. The problem is, if they don't pull them up and create them, then they don't know what they look like
on a regular basis.
on a regular basis. And so if they just start out, and I'm not saying don't spend a whole day, spend a couple of hours once a month, review the previous month and see what the reports are. When they do that month after month, they're going to see something's different this month than it was 2 months ago. Why are my supplies so high? Why is the payroll suddenly higher? Start looking at those things. Collections seems to be down. And I've got tons of tools that I recommend for them to do. But if they would just start learning those business reports and reviewing them, to see the differences, to see the anomalies that could happen from month to month. That would be a great place to start. The other would be was what you said. If they belong to a study club, have me come speak. I love speaking at study clubs because it's a small group of people and they're there because they want to be there, not because they have to get credit. I mean, you get credit, but not because it's a conference or anything like that. Not that conferences aren't bad at all, but I compete with Invisalign down the hall almost every time. And so when there's other competition, they may not come to see a course that will help them with their practice.
Well, and even if they do at a conference, you're taking so many back-to-back courses that by the time you get back to your office on Monday, everything Susan said is just out of your head. I have a similar problem. So yes, I agree. Study clubs are a fantastic way to have this kind of education because it can be intimate. You can be 100% sure that it's only doctors.
Yes, and study clubs, they get their answers. I mean, I'll stay as long as they want me to stay. You know, they're paying me to be there, and so I'll stay and answer questions.
And Susan, I know that sometimes you write articles for some magazines that you share some of your insights. I know you've had a couple that are out recently. You want to tell us about some of those?
Yeah, I try to write 2 to 3 blog posts a month, which can be found on my website. Yeah. And I love taking something that's happened in current news and expounding about how that relates to our day-to-day business. And so, like, I posted about the Louvre break-in and that it only took 7 minutes to steal millions of dollars of jewels.
I saw that.
I mean, it just was amazing to me. 7 minutes, backing up the truck, putting this thing up there, breaking a window, single pane window, by the way, that was not wired and was not reinforced. Guards that are there to protect the people, they didn't have guns. And it was, talk about brazen. I talk about brazen embezzlers all the time in my conferences and speaking, but these people were brazen. It was already open. It had been open for 30 minutes. And so here they are breaking in, going immediately to the jewels. They know exactly the ones they're going to do. They break the cases, also not reinforced and not wired. Break the cases, steal the jewels, get out, go down the ladder again, and are on their motorbikes 7 minutes.
Yeah. This is not like one of those mastermind movies where they're like weeks and weeks in advance to go through this fantastic equipment to go underneath the build, like any of that. No, just drive up, pop in, snatch
with a big long ladder on the back of a truck. So, the interesting thing to me was they had plans to increase their security and to reinforce some of the building and to establish.
And so they had found all their weaknesses and vulnerabilities through a full risk assessment, and they had a plan on mitigation, but they didn't do it yet. That, ironically, that's how the Target hack in 2013 happened. They knew their credit card machines, those red credit card machines they had at Target. That's how that happened. They knew it was a problem. There was a fraction of a second from the credit card terminal to when it actually was in the encrypted system. And they had all of them ordered. They were in the Target stores and they were waiting until the Christmas season was over before putting them in. And everybody I got hacked at that point.
Yeah.
So the Louvre, that's actually really,
and you just don't think, you guys, it's the Louvre.
I've been there. It's so secure. Like, you walk in, my husband had to take his insulin pump off and have it swabbed and all that stuff.
But the thing is, there's pieces there from before BC. And so you're thinking, this has to be the most secure place in the world, right? Because look at all these antiquities that are in this building. I got to tell you, dental practices are thought a little bit similarly, that how in the world would anybody embezzle from a dental practice? It's a great place for good health. they're taking care of people. Why would somebody that's working in the practice embezzle? And that's what I wrote the article on, is how they need to pay the practice owners really need to pay attention. And I give some very practical steps to how to do that, comparing it to the Louvre. Because what a great lesson. It is time to wake up. You need to put these things into place. Get your systems, or somebody within 30 years is going to embezzle from you.
Well, not just that. I mean, if you're talking about smash and grabs, the number
Oh,
of
yeah.
practices that don't have a security system in their practice, or don't have one that's actually connected to whatever their, I know, Amy, is it a little pain behind your eyes?
Steaming. Yeah. No, I
Every
mean, like, I tell
time.
people this all the time. The smash and grab jobs are so easy. And a $70 kit for a Kensington lock for your admin computers up front and your server and your backup drive, like, these are cheap insurance, because people are going to walk in with handheld bolt cutters that, guess what? They fit in a pocket. And men's pockets are actually normal pockets. Women don't have normal pocket sizes, but,
Right.
but with these cables, you would have to have bolt cutters. And if someone's walking by with a pair of bolt cutters on their shoulder, like, someone's going to notice and say, dude, you look sketchy. Like, it's just, it bothers me so much with the physical theft, because it's
Yes.
so easy. This is not new information to try to
No.
protect from physical theft.
And every
Right.
time I do an employee handbook, I ask that question, because that's one of the sections that I have is, what about office security? And that goes from whether or not you have one team member there by themselves. It's another one that I see if we're talking about low-hanging fruit. Another one I see is team members that are allowed to stay after hours and continue to work on the clock, or otherwise be exempt, whatever. But like, that's another one we did in retail. You could not have fewer than two people in the store
That's
at all
right.
times. Like,
Yeah.
that's just a security issue. But then I'll ask, what does their office key situation look like? And then, do they have a security system? And if you have a physical key, does your security system have a unique code for every team member? Oh,
Yes.
no, I have cameras. Okay, because those work 100% of the time. Like,
Right.
simple little basic things that we just don't do, because, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. I know that I should, but that sounds like work.
And those security systems are really easy to get now. I mean, they used to be atrociously priced, but now they're amazing.
They're all DIY systems. And when you have DIY home systems that people are used to using at home, they feel like they can circumvent them at work. And if you get someone that's even a little bit tech savvy, then that's usually what I call not your best asset. It's your worst liability.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
or what I found lately is that some of the practices that have doctors that are, about retirement, about ready to sell, they might have that team member who's the tech savvy team member that they just put all of their faith, and that person's going to take care of it for me. So they don't bother with it. And they let somebody else be the person to set those things up, or do the research, or engage that service, or read the manual, because they don't want to do it, don't understand it, or kind of checked out, whatever the case may be. Maybe they're just not tech savvy. I get it. But
Yeah.
on some level, you can't delegate that. You can't delegate via abdication when it comes to your security of your office,
No.
patient data, and
Got
your
a-
money.
It can't
I've
be
got
your
a great
brother-in-law,
story on that.
not a brother-in-law, not a cousin.
No, no, not a friend from
He's
church.
a pretty
No, I mean,
professional. Right.
it's interesting that you bring that up, because I actually had that happen with a very long time client. She's since sold and retired. Wish her well. But I would call and get the voicemail of, you've called so and so, or you've reached me at so and so's office. Meanwhile, this is the main number.
Oh my gosh.
And this office manager was treating it as her personal voicemail. And then we come to find out that the internet service was in her name and tied to her phone for the texting, the email, the everything. And so when this team member was terminated, it became a huge deal. The office email was tied to it. It was a nightmare. And I think it took well over a year to finally remediate,
Wow.
because obviously the person that got terminated, they didn't want to play nice.
No. Mm-mm. Well, and
So yeah,
that is also something that we had talked about before, was the admin passwords for the practice software, for the merchant card services, for anything and everything that they have in that practice needs to be the doctor, not the office manager.
That's one of the
Or
embezzlement cases that I got to work with, not on. It's not that we found it. The practice owner and his wife found a note on their front door when they went home after work one day from a sheriff who was saying, basically, call me. And they did, and found out that the merchant service company had found out after 3 years of this happening that the front administrative team member had been retroactively issuing patient discounts, and it was all going to one account. And the merchant service company figured that out, called the police. Police talked to the doctor. They had to arrest her in the office the following Tuesday. Doctor's wife said the hardest thing she ever had to do was give that woman her paycheck that Friday and not let her know anything, because they were going to be sheriff's going to be there the next morning. But that was the thing that didn't happen, is that there wasn't a PIN or any kind of permission on the credit card terminal, and she was just able to just issue that refund back to the patient, in air quotes. And that's how she embezzled.
Yeah.
I think like 125, 130 at the time that it was caught, and they found like 180 or so total after.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, Susan, thank you so much for your time today. I know we've taken up quite a bit of your time, but we definitely appreciate you coming on. How can people get in touch with you? Anybody listening to this, if they want to have you audit their practice, if they want to invite you to speak at their study club, what is the best way for them to reach you?
www.susangunsolutions.com. That's
Perfect.
the easiest way. Yeah. If you Google my name, Susan Gunn, I believe I still come up first. So that's the easy. Phone and email are on there. So just reach out that way. I love talking to people to see how I can help them.
Well, thanks for joining us, Susan Gunn, on this wonderful episode of the Compliant AF podcast. And for all our listeners out there, make sure to subscribe and follow along for all our amazing experts. And in the meantime, make sure that you are also compliant AF.